You are listening to the Drink Less Lifestyle podcast with Dr. Sherry Price, episode number 155.
Welcome to Drink Less Lifestyle, a podcast for successful women who want to change their relationship with alcohol. If you want to drink less, feel healthier, and start loving life again, you're in the right place. Please remember that the information in this podcast does not constitute medical advice. Now, here's your host, Dr. Sherry Price.
Well, hello, my beautiful friend. How are you today? This week, I am so excited. We have launched Tone in 10. So excited for the ladies in the program as we go about this, doing our radical transformation, 10 healthy habits to a healthier new you, burning body fat, learning how to fuel our bodies in a way that promotes health and longevity, flexibility, sustainability, all in doable action steps. And just super excited with the ladies. I am sharing videos about how I am doing this process right along with them, taking them behind the scenes, showing them what I eat, how I structure my day, and really providing valuable information so they can do the same for their health and wellness. And what's really great about the community is that we get to learn together. We get to see where people are having pitfalls or obstacles, and then really come together and strategize ways to overcome them. I have to say that one of the things that gets me so jazzed is empowering other women. I love doing that through this podcast. I love doing that through all my programs because I value health and I really want to take it for the next level for myself and for anybody who is interested in up-leveling in that way for them. So really thrilled, super excited to be leading them through this journey, especially as we know, the stats from coming out of COVID, a lot of people have put on weight and developed unhealthy habits and really haven't successfully rebounded from that. So we want to change those statistics. We want to change that trajectory, and just so excited for the women in that program. Now, I've been receiving quite a few comments on some of the recent podcasts, which have really resonated with you. One podcast that I've been getting some private DMs, some private emails about that being psychologically avoidant on problems and not willing to look at them, and how that podcast has really helped you to see those areas in your life that you have not been willing to look at and why that is. And some of you have given me just recent feedback on my last podcast about embracing change, because this is a season of life where many of you want to embrace change. I mean, we look at what's going to be happening here in the fall, right? Leaves change colors and trees, and we embrace change of seasons, change in rhythms of life. And so embracing that change is something that a lot of people want this phase or this time of the year. So I'm going to be talking about a new concept within this podcast that I hope will resonate with you and you will get tremendous value from. But to start, I really want to broaden the context of saying why change is hard. And I want to give you the top 3 reasons why I find most people find change to be hard or difficult. So one of the biggest reasons I find that people think change is hard, or they think change is actually impossible, is that they think it's about being motivated and not wanting to do it. And I don't think it comes down to that at all. And I don't even think it comes down to saying that it's a hard thing. Now, I know that calling it a hard thing, right, is a mindset that we can shift to, but sometimes it is hard. And so we don't want to be telling ourselves lies that we can't believe, because in the moment, it may be hard. But I don't think it's about it being a hard thing to do, because many of us embark upon journeys where things are hard, or we've gone through things, not that we asked to go through them, but that have been hard, that have been difficult. I mean, bring a kid into this world, that's freaking hard. Raising a kid, that's freaking hard. It's a hard thing, but so many of us still choose to do it. And so we embrace doing hard things all the time. And I think it's a great thing that we embrace doing hard things, because life is not made to be this easy, comfortable, convenient journey. And if we think it is, that really sets us up for worsening health and making us weaker and less resilient. And then sometimes people say, well, I just think it's impossible. And deep down, I don't really think they fully think it's impossible. Like if somebody comes to me and says, I want to lose 20 pounds, but it's probably impossible. Well, We know people lose 20 pounds all the time. Or I went to find the love of my life. Well, it's possible. You know why? Because people are out there finding the love of their life. So I don't think these are the biggest reasons that really hold back or make change so hard. They would not make my top 3 list. When people say, I want to change my drinking or cut back on drinking, absolutely, totally possible. You can stop over drinking. You could stop overeating anytime you want. That change is possible. You want to look better. You want to feel better. You want to be healthier. Absolutely. How many 50, 60, 70-year-olds out there pick up running for the first time or start exercising or talk about how they feel healthier now than they ever did in their 20s and 30s? It's when they finally commit to doing these healthy habits, which I cover in Tone in 10, right? You've got to do healthy habits. You can get there. So if you can get there, then what's really stopping you? It's not really saying it's impossible because you know deep down it's possible. And it may be hard, but deep down you know you can do hard things. You've done hard things. So why is it that we don't change? Well, the biggest reason I find that we don't change is that we are psychologically inflexible. Now, if you haven't heard this term before, I will break it down for you. If you look at clinical psychology, they will talk about psychological inflexibility being a characteristic where the subject adopts perilous strategies to avoid confronting their dissatisfaction, including engaging in hedonic pleasure, seeking substances, substance abuse, contributing to the rise in the number of drug overdoses, risky sexual behaviors, or forms of self-sabotage. Okay, so putting that high-fluent, high textbook, high science definition aside, let's talk about what it really is. It's really when you see yourself a certain way and you can't see yourself being a different way. You are locked in to seeing yourself one way. You are locked into doing things a certain way. And your current identity, you can't see morphing into a new identity. And when you are psychologically inflexible, it means you've become attached to your current way of being, and you are attached to the comfort and the certainty that that brings. It's like you are constantly on autopilot. This is just the way things have always been, and they're going to be continued to be the same way. This is the way my marriage has always gone, and it's continued to be the same way. This is how my drinking has always been, and it's going to continue to be the same way. These are the way my kids always behave, and this is the way it's going to continue to be. You are projecting your past onto the current and into the present. And that is being psychologically inflexible, where you don't think things will change for you, for others, for relationships, and you are locked in to it being this way. Now, sometimes that can be beneficial, right? If you find the quickest way to work, you might want to continue taking the quickest way to work. You might want to stay psychologically inflexible to trying new patterns to get to work, especially if you've tried many and they slow you down. However, when it comes to change, being psychologically inflexible is the biggest factor that holds you back. And it keeps you stuck in your current identity. It keeps you stuck from evolving into being more of yourself or being different than your current self. I want you to think about it this way. I want you to think about psychological inflexibility as being you wear the same outfit day in, day out, never change. You eat the same things day in, day out, and never change. And you behave this way and act this way for weeks, months, and years. And you will often find people saying, that's just who I am. And when you get to that psychological inflexibility phase, you don't want to change. You just stay stuck. You stop trying. You said, oh, I've tried fad diets. They don't work. And instead of looking for alternative ways than a fad diet, which we know don't work, you stop seeking alternative pathways to get to what you want. And then it gets really frustrating when you still talk about changing and still wishing you had something different for yourself or in your life, but you can't actually bring yourself to do anything differently because you are mentally stuck. because you are psychologically inflexible. And so your past begins to define your future. Another thing, if you constantly keep talking about your past and looking backwards about what didn't work, how it went wrong, what you don't have, how somebody mistreated you, then there's no room for growth and newness because your brain is still stuck in the past on what hasn't been working, what hasn't worked, and all of the negativity. And so to find relief from that, oftentimes you come home and pour a drink because that's the way you've dealt with this disappointment, unhappiness, frustration in the past. And so you're going to continue to do that today, tomorrow, the next day, 4 months from now, a year from now, even a decade from now, right? So that's just one example how over drinking can stem from not getting to the root of the problem. In that case, you don't have a drinking problem. You're using drinking as a coping for a symptom of a different problem. And so if we got to the root of the problem, looking at the psychological inflexibility and how you can modify that to become more flexible so you can get what you want, then the need or the want for the drink starts to go away. But oftentimes society will say, well, just give up the drinking and you'll feel better. And that's not always the case if you don't get to the root cause of the problem, is it? Now, being psychologically inflexible can look at like other things. It could be like, well, when I go out with these friends and it's a Friday night and we go to these certain locations, these certain bars, these certain restaurants, or I'm hanging out with people I call my drinking buddies, I need to drink. That's also a form of being psychologically inflexible, right? That these triggers in my environment cause me to show up this way. But if we are to embrace change and then embrace psychological flexibility, we know that that's not really the reason we're doing it. We're doing it because we are psychologically stuck, right? So we need to be psychologically flexible in order to change our habits and behaviors, right? It all starts in the mind. And we all know we are capable of doing hard things. We can all go back to a time where we've conquered hard things, done hard things. School is hard, whether it be middle school, high school, college. Some of us have been traumatized during those years because they were hard. We're figuring ourselves out. We're learning where we belong. We're learning what our values are. We're getting inputs from our parents. We're getting inputs from our friends. They oftentimes clash. We're getting inputs from society of other ways through teachers, mentors, organizations that we get involved in, whether they're sports or religious or otherwise. And depending on those inputs, you may have been told that grades are really important. Teachers may have been like, tests are really important. This makes such an impact on your grade, and that leads to tests and test anxiety and the Sunday scaries. I know my daughter has the Sunday scaries. Every Sunday night, she wants to come sleep in our bed because she's anxious about how she's going to perform in the following week. And there might not even be any tests coming up. But she's at that phase in her life where she's trying to figure out the world, trying to figure out herself, trying to figure out how she fits in, what her value is, what her worth is, where your worth comes from. These are big questions. And it's not like you go through, your teen years and your early 20s and have it all figured out. That's what society would like to tell you. You just do these things and it's all figured out and you'll be happily ever after. But how many of us are disenfranchised with that because that's not true? We begin to evolve again. We begin to change again. And maybe the messages we received from others don't feel right for us. We've tried those on and they're not working. And so I see my daughter go through this at 13. I see women go through this as I'm coaching them in my coaching programs. And some of them, Sundays are the worst day for their drinking because they are nervous about the upcoming week and performing and thinking that they have to earn their worth through their jobs or earn their worth by attending every event that each of their kids has going on and making it all happen and doing the Tetris game with the calendar and making dinner and who's going to cover that and who's going to cover that. Yes. And this adds to the stress. So I get it. It's a real thing. I'm not saying it's not a real thing. What I'm saying is, how are we mentally preparing ourselves and handling this? Because what I find, if we can't handle our emotions, we turn to an escape. And we turn to that escape to feel better. So it could be drinking. It could be eating some sugar. It could be hitting the pantry. It could be eating after dinner when we said we're not going to eat after dinner. And while those things in isolation aren't bad, but over time, it makes us emotionally dependent on something outside of us, and it makes us weaker and less equipped to handle these emotions when they arise in the future. And then we start training our brain, this is how we handle Sunday scaries, and this is how we handle our anxiety, and this is how we handle more stress. And then our brain goes, wow, okay, I get it. That worked. Let's do it again. And do that enough times over and over, it becomes autopilot. It's just what I do. I just hit the bottle. It's the only thing that's going to make me feel better. It's the only way I know how to calm my emotions. Yes, maybe right now, but if you were psychologically flexible, you might consider, what else can I do? What else can I do to help me with these emotions so I become more resilient, become stronger, and become independent of needing outside substances to comfort me? Because here's the beautiful thing about the brain. You can program it. You're either programming it to serve you, or you're programming it for self-sabotaging behaviors that you don't want to be doing, or bad habits you don't want to be doing, or bad habits that can creep up over time and turn into full-blown addictions. And then that becomes your identity, right? You train yourself into your identity. And you can hear people say what their identity is. A lot of times they'll start with the phrase, I'm someone. I'm someone who needs a drink to relax. I'm someone who likes to have a good time and drink with my friends. And sometimes I'll even hear women joke or comically say, oh yeah, I have high anxiety and alcohol is my Ativan. Instead of taking a prescription drug, I take one that's over the counter, and that's alcohol. Okay, so you told us the problem and you told us your solution, but I just want to remind you and keep you open to that there are other solutions to managing anxiety. There are ways that you can decrease your anxiety so it's not so bad. So you don't have to, quote, manage it, and you don't have to, quote, deal with it. You can actually reduce it, which I think is a much better long-term strategy. If you can chip away at the problem, then you don't need such a radical solution like alcohol. So notice if you just say, oh, I'm just a person who likes to go out and drink and have fun, or I'm just someone, right? What are your phrases stating about your identity? And I think that's really good information for us to know about how we identify and how we state ourselves. Because here's also the thing, if we're saying that, we're also training others how to look at us and what our identity is. So if I go out into the world and say, yeah, I'm a pretty shy person, I'm already giving somebody the perception that I don't like to talk much or whatever it is. So I'm already tainting their view and their perception of me by sharing the perception I have of myself. And another classic one I hear all the time is, oh, I'm a better mom when I drink, or I'm a better spouse when I drink because I could just let things roll over me rather than getting all up in a tizzy. I'm a better mom. Really think about that. Interesting, right? Are you a better mom? Or are you just a mom who can't handle their emotions? And how does it make you a better mom? What actions do you do that make you a better mom? I'm just questioning it all. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Let's just really break that down and say, what is a better mom look like? Because our kids are watching. And if they see that mom can't handle her negative emotions, or the way she handles them is through a bottle or a drink, maybe then we're setting up the kid to think, wow, okay, that might be an effective solution, something I'll save in the back of my mind for when I get there one day. And I love how tricky our brains can get. Like, I just need a drink to calm down. But is it really ever just a drink? Because what I find, that one drink leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And so I really like to catch my brain when it's sending me these signals that, oh, it's just going to be one drink, but really I'm saying it in a way that, yeah, it's one drink, but in all honesty, it turns out to be many more. Because the difference between one drink and 2 drinks a day is the difference between a moderate drinker to a heavy drinker. This is not a light difference. This is a significant difference. And I don't point this out to be judgmental or critical. I point this out to really question what is going on in our brain and how is that leading us to a life that we want or a life that we don't want. And a life that we want is an epic one. So when you can't really see yourself operating in a new way, it really means you've become attached to your current identity and you aren't flexible. And just to bring this to an example I talk about a lot in my recent podcasts is I'm learning to fuel my body differently. I'm learning to feed my body differently. So I'm in the process right now of being psychologically flexible. And that means I'm not overly attached to my past ways of eating, except for the salmon with the certain sauce. But now I found a solution. Can you believe I found a solution? It's amazing. I have a different way to garnish salmon. That's delicious. Now that's a small feat, but it's a feat because I don't want to give up eating salmon. It has tremendous benefits for my health. And so by me staying psychologically flexible, I wasn't stuck to my past saying, whoa, I'll never have it the same way. It'll never taste as good. I'll never change. No, I opened myself up to being flexible and saying, okay, how else can I eat salmon in a way that's delicious and satisfying? So I'm teaching my brain new things. I'm teaching my brain new ways of eating. I'm teaching my brain new recipes to cook. I'm also learning how to use an air fryer. Yes, I've owned one for a while, but it's sat there collecting dust. But now I'm joining the air fryer party. I'm making a ton of mistakes along the way, but I'm learning. I'm growing, learning, expanding, evolving. Because I don't want to continue eating like I've been. I now know a healthier way, so when I know better, I do better. And so I highlight this in my own life with these simple things that are going on for me. You know, they're not major overhauls in terms of how to garnish salmon, but they are important overhauls. And that's what I want you to focus on. What's going to move the needle in your life? Not focusing on all the things, but really the big things that move the needle tremendously in your life. So embracing change comes with being psychologically flexible, looking for new ways, a new path, a new teacher, new information, new recipes. And I'll tell you, the benefits of this are tremendous. I live with more aliveness and alertness now. I'm just not on autopilot making the same, 14 recipes, I don't know, that I make throughout the week. Now I'm like, whoa. I'm bringing in cabbage. I'm bringing in other things that I've never cooked with. And so when you start eliminating these things that make you on autopilot and kind of are mind numbing and cause an escape out of your life, you tune into your life. And you're not in this dullness or this drunkenness or this forgetfulness state where things don't feel like they matter when they really do. So I'm creating more health and more wellness, not less. And I'm finding I have more proud moments and moments that I'm like really prideful of like, wow, look at all these things that I'm doing for my health and I'm accomplishing for myself and how my family is learning and benefiting along the way. Not that they eat every meal I eat, but they're just impressed with how committed I am and how I'm willing to try new things. And they may taste some of it and not like it this time around. But then I make it again and they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't so bad. I think I like that. And they might doctor it up a little bit differently, but they're learning to explore. And so these pride moments and these proud moments are so much different than regret and shame. And this is how I want to use my time on earth, right? I don't want to use it being squandered or wasted away on things that I could have made these small changes, which made it more impactful and fulfilling for me. Because I want these next years of my life, this back half of my life, if you will, to be even better than the first half of my life. And here's what I know. I know that this month is already better than last month by how much I've grown, by how much I've achieved, by how much I've learned. And then I also know that next month is going to be better than this month. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited about the new growth and the new changes and the new learnings I'm going to have. It sure beats feeling stuck, stagnant, and not changing. There's a quote that I like, and it says, anyone who isn't embarrassed by who they were last year probably isn't learning enough. And I can relate to that so much. I shared early on in the podcast about how I used to discipline my daughter and what I thought would work and what I thought she would relate to, and I missed the mark tremendously to the point that I'm embarrassed I acted that way. I couldn't handle my emotions. I couldn't handle my stress. I couldn't handle my anger. And oftentimes I projected it onto her. And I am embarrassed by that. And I am so glad that is part of my past. And that is not how I parent now. I'm embarrassed by how much I used to drink in the past. And you know what I'm thankful for? I don't do it that much anymore. because I've learned, I've implemented skills, I've implemented tools, I've done the work, I've done the hard work. And I love myself that I did that. I didn't want to stay in that identity, and I broke that mold and created anew. And that's what I want for you. All right, moving on to the second biggest obstacle I find in why people find change to be so hard is that they become emotionally blocked. Now, I'm going to cover two parts of the emotional side or emotional scale, right? We have the part we all think of, the negative side. When we feel negative, we turn to alcohol for the escape to buffer out and numb out those negative feelings because we don't want to feel disappointed. We don't want to feel stressed. We don't want to feel sad. We don't want to feel angry. We don't want to feel hurt. So we drink. Eventually, I'm going to get to the positive side too. You can be blocked from a positive side. And I've seen this in some of my clients. So I think we can all relate that it doesn't feel good to have regret, guilt, shame. Maybe we've been through adverse childhood trauma, adverse events in our childhood that affected us greatly, even if it was just a negative comment one of our peers said or one of our teachers said. And we just took that to heart because we were forming and developing at that time, and we didn't have the capacity of our brain to think about it in a logical way. It just hit us such in a powerful, negative, emotional way that we still carry that baggage, and it's holding us back in some way. And so if we have any little trauma, major trauma, right, we need to deal with that. Otherwise, we continue to carry it forward. Study and study and study talk about how these adverse childhood events lead to more disease, mental conditions, inappropriate relationships with people or food or things or buying things or needing things or having to wear certain things, or they just affect our self-worth that comes out through our self-image. And to do that, it takes a good therapist and a coach to work through that. Oftentimes, we aren't equipped to be able to do that on our own. The studies show and the research shows time and time again, you need somebody to walk you through this process. And not everybody is versed in the process. Not everybody is trauma informed. Not everybody got educated around this. There are certain ways you have to handle this. It's delicate. People's pain needs to be dealt with in a proper manner. And I'm a big believer, if you're going to be helping people, you should be trauma informed because it's more helpful for that person. And it's helpful if you've worked on your own trauma and come out the other side, that you have experiences to say, hey, this worked, and give these patients and these people hope. I've worked on a ton of my own personal trauma with different therapists and coaches. And I work with women, and I work with actually quite a lot of women who tell me that their therapist had said things to them that didn't help them or wasn't handled in a delicate way, or they felt that their therapist was projecting onto them something from their background. And I think that just can add insult to injury. So picking the right person is important, absolutely critical. You need to feel safe, supported, not judged in this environment. And really that goes for a lot of things in life, but particularly the most delicate. You know, I sign up for these pickleball clinics to learn stuff. And I have one instructor who I didn't sign up for her course again because she would say, hey, you can't be doing it that way. Don't be hitting the ball that way. And I'm like, okay, that's a little too traumatizing for me. Can you teach me how to hit it, not how not to do it? That's a little bit better for me. Because I used to play softball in junior high. So when I see a ball come at me, I think I have to hit it super hard and way up in the air. So when I first started pickleball, I was a mess. The ball wasn't even on my court. It was in somebody else's court on the other side, over the fence. It was crazy. But that's my muscle memory at work. That is a skill that I need to polish and learn. And so finding the right coach and the right clinic and the right way to learn that is important, so I get success quicker and faster. Because I don't want to be in pickleball clinics forever. I don't want to be in therapy forever. I want to find somebody who is going to help me get there quick, fast, in a way that's supportive and non-judgmental. And I say that for you as you're evaluating who you work with, who you hire, because there are a multitude of ways that you can work with people and heal these traumas, and you want to pick a way that feels right for you. And I strongly will never recommend somebody who says to me, hey, I have a serious alcohol problem. I really want to work with somebody who works with addicts. I don't send them to people who say you have a drinking problem. It's not a drinking problem. That's your solution. You have to get to the root of the problem. And there are some people who haven't evolved to that yet. And so that's why when you start in Epic You, you have immediate access to over 35 courses. Because I want to know what's causing you to drink. Is it your relationships? Great. Start at the relationships course. Start there, come to the calls, get coached, come to Slack, start posting. Where are you stuck and how can I help you? Because if we don't address the root cause, your drinking will continue and it will just feel like white knuckling. Oh, I shouldn't have it tonight. Oh, I can't buy it tonight. Oh, I can't bring it into the house tonight. And you will continue to white knuckle forever. And that's exhausting. And it's not sustainable. It took me 2.5 years to build up that library of courses. As I continue to work with women, I'm like, oh, that's something that needs a course. Oh, that's something that I need tools to help them with and through. Because if I don't, I'm just going to tell them, well, just don't drink alcohol. How helpful is that? It's like me telling me, don't hit the pickleball that hard. Okay, well, tell me what to do instead. Where is the root cause of my problem? Maybe you have an anxiety problem. Great. Start with the anxiety course. Maybe you don't know how to control your emotions. Great. Start with that course. When you come into Epic You, the goal is not to go through every 35 courses. You might not need them all. You might need 5. You might need 10. You might need 2. The goal is to solve your problem, the root problem. And what I find for a lot of women is that they are emotionally clogged and they have to start clearing that clutter. They are bringing in the past. They have unhealed trauma. They have unhealed insecurities. And so I teach a process on how to clear the emotional clutter, how to clear the mental clutter, and how to even clear physical clutter. Because some people are like, my house is a mess. Like everything feels a mess. It feels like my mind is a mess. And then it's exhibited in my house and everything's everywhere. And that's a mess. But what we know is every mess we can clean up. We can heal. That's the beauty of the brain. It has the power to heal. And so if you are emotionally blocked, take steps to unclog. Now, I promised you we'd talk about the other side where I see people that are emotionally blocked by positive emotions. And these women feel like they have to cheer people up. They have to be the life of the party. They have to be the happy one. They always have to put on a smile, look good, be laughable, be likable. They want people to enjoy them. They want to make others feel good. And so this becomes their identity. They think, oh, I have to cheer everybody up. I have to charm the room. I have to be the most fun. And so this can be a form of an emotional blockage as well, because you fear people seeing the real you. And I promise you, the real you, you're not happy 100% of the time. You're not smiling 100% of the time. And you don't even have good emotions all day long. You have bad days, just like every other human. You have sad times, just like every other human. And I'll tell you, real friendships come from showing up real and authentic. If you always feel like you have to put on the Southern charm and look so prim and so proper and be so happy, that's very fragile. And that's putting a lot of pressure on yourself to show up a certain way 100% of the time. It means you're not being authentic. Now, I'm not saying go out and be a Debbie Downer. Don't take this to mean the opposite 180 degrees. I'm just saying there's no level of perfection where we're happy all the time. We can't be smiley all the time. That is just not human. That is fake. And so if you can't show up and say what you really feel, say how you really feel inside your body, or express what you really want for your life, you are emotionally blocked. If you think you have to bring the fun, you're relied on as bringing the fun or being that happy person in the room. Because you've trained people, that's how you show up. Maybe for the last 5-10 years of your life, that's how you've always showed up. So they expect this now of you. And so now you feel the pressure to please others. And so if you go out drinking one night with your drinking buddies or your friends and you're usually the one drinking right along with them, if you go out and say, oh, tonight I'm not drinking or I'm just having one, you might get shocked looks like, oh, what's going on? Are you okay? And you just say, yeah, I'm choosing to be a moderate drinker. But that feels very scary to people because they could be emotionally blocked, thinking that they have to prop up everyone else around them. And that goes back to your identity. That goes back to being psychologically inflexible, right? The biggest reason people don't embrace change and think it's too hard is because they're psychologically inflexible. But you get to show up how you want to show up. If you want to drink that night, drink. If you don't, don't. If you want to eat something that night, eat. If you don't, you don't. And you can be completely transparent about it. There's no shame. When my friends show up and say, oh, I'm doing less sugar or I'm doing less alcohol, I'm like, right on, good for you. And I just continue doing what I'm doing. And if you don't have friends who support you and support that, what kind of friends are they? Now, that's a bit of a judgment call on my part, right? But I want to be surrounded by people who want what I want for me. And I also like being around people who challenge me to do better and to be better. Because I know myself, those are environments I thrive in. And how about you? What helps you thrive and feel alive and feel amazing in this world? And so notice if you are emotionally clogged, right? Because if you are emotionally clogged, you tend to overdrink, whether it's people pleasing, not being able to handle your emotions, stuck in a way of the way you see yourself and your identity. I'll tell you, you're not going to be happy with yourself long term. I hear comments like, I feel like I'm missing the mark. I feel like I can't stay committed. I feel like I get some traction and then just slip back. And just like I said, a big reason that people get emotionally clogged is they feel they can't let other people down. People pleasing, right? And a lot of us have been societally conditioned this way. I see parents do this to their kids, right? Kids go through times of uncertainty. It's natural. They're figuring themselves out. Sometimes they leave home for the first time in their life and they're like, wow, all this responsibility and all these things that my parents used to do for me. Now I'm doing them on my own. Or maybe we have certain wants and wishes for our kids to become, a doctor or a lawyer or an attorney or a teacher. And then we push them into these jobs and these career paths. And or they want to get them to go to a certain college or an Ivy League school. And we push them this way. And guess what? The kid doesn't want that, but they do it because they're seeking approval from their parents. And so they learn that people pleasing is the way to go because then their parents are happy and then they feel more love. But deep down, they get emotionally burdened by having to keep their parents happy, which delays them from finding what they truly want. And so we learn to people please at a very young age. So we're conditioned to do that. Toddlers aren't conditioned. They do what the heck they want. They eat the way they want. They throw food. They are not conditioned. Right? If you look at a toddler that comes into this world, there's a lot of socialization that kid has to undergo, right? Some of it good. But that's not to say it's bad or wrong or evil. It's just to say, oh, that's the way society has brought us up. But now I can decondition that and please myself because I matter and my health matters. And I want to prioritize that over other people's emotions. Now, it's not like you're going out there actively criticizing them and looking to make their emotions feel bad. You're just not responsible for them. And I just want to remind you, if you look at society and where we're headed, do you want society to be conditioning you? Because that's a good question to ask, right? I think that's fair. And when I look at the statistics, particularly, coming out of COVID, mental health illness, rates are up, anxiety's up, depression's up. Gun violence is up. When I look at weight gain, metabolic dysfunction, diabetes, overweight, it's all up. It's all increased. It's all skyrocketing. And if you think about it, we have 4% of the world's population. But yet here in America, we had the highest death rate due to COVID. What does that mean? If we're only 4% of the population, but we had more deaths here than anywhere else, something tells me our immune system is weak. Why are we getting so weak? Why here and not other places? You look at the New York Times, U.S. has far higher COVID death rate than any other wealthy country. Because we feed our body toxins and chemicals and ultra-processed food, and we're addicted to sugar and alcohol. And we have all these mitochondrial toxins running around in our body, which weaken our body, weaken our immune system, cause inflammation, and cause disease. Now, if that's the society I'm living in, and I don't want those things to happen to me, maybe I shouldn't be allowing society to influence me so much. Maybe I need my own path. And that's what I'm doing. I'm being courageous. I'm setting my own path. I'm inviting you with me. You want to learn a healthier way of living where you don't have chronic conditions, where you can enjoy the body you're with and in and have it move for you long into your 80s and hopefully 90s? That's the path I want to be on. I want to be strong, healthy, and epic, and I want to encourage others to be strong, healthy, and epic. And on this mission, I'm creating programs to teach others how to do that. And so coming back, clear the emotional baggage. It keeps you stuck in bad habits that you don't want, like overeating and overdrinking. Get a plunger out. Unclog, ladies. But I'm serious. Coaching is very effective, and so is therapy. Unclog those emotions. Get under the root cause of what's holding you back. Because oftentimes, if we try doing it ourselves, we're blaming the wrong thing. We're not even pinpointing the right problem. All right, moving on to number 3. And why is change so hard? Well, for a lot of us, we bite off more than we can chew. We want to make these huge strides and want instantaneous results overnight and magically change to the point that we burn ourselves out, we get too sore at the gym, we don't like the foods that we're eating by week 2 because we did this massive overhaul and it's not sustainable. So we just don't do it. We just give up. We quit, we start. We quit, we start. And we start with these lofty goals. And I'm all for lofty goals, but is it sustainable? Can you actually do this week in and week out? Because what's more important than how much are you doing? It's how much of this is sustainable. And a better question to ask is, can I stay consistent with this change? And if you cannot, it's too big of a change. Now, maybe you can do it for 2 weeks, a month, a short period of time, but I want to see it be sustainable, a long-lasting health change, a long-lasting habit change, a lifestyle change, because that's what we know is most effective. And this is exactly how I designed Tone in 10. It's not that you have to go to the gym the first week, hit it hard, get really sore, lift really heavy stuff, do yoga, then go to Pilates, then do CrossFit. No, that's not sustainable. If you can work out once or twice a week and you haven't been doing that, let's start there. Let's do something that you can implement that is sustainable, that you can do consistently. I know a lot of people love the acronym Go Big or Go Home. And I'll tell you, for a lot of women, that doesn't work. Some, yes, for a short period of time, a week or 2, if you're doing a challenge or you want to really commit to something for a short period of time, sure. But if you're doing habit change, if you're doing lifestyle change, go small and be consistent. That is more powerful. And you've probably been there. You're going to give up alcohol for a whole month. And then what happens when you reintroduce it? You wind up guzzling it up, right? And you're right back to where you started. No habit has been changed. All you did was do a cleanse and then retoxify. I rather go by the model, go small and be consistent, because that is going to start shifting your identity. That you're going to start seeing yourself differently. That's not a 30-day thing. That's a lifetime thing. There you have it, my friends, the top 3 reasons why change is hard and what to do about each of them. I know this podcast has gone on a little long, but I hope you have enjoyed it and learned tremendously from it. If so, please hit the subscribe button, rate, and leave a review of this podcast. I'd greatly appreciate it also if you can share it with a friend. And remember, my friend, keep up-leveling and growing into the most epic version of you. I'll see you next week. If you want to change your relationship with alcohol and with yourself, then come check out Epic You. It's where you get individualized help mastering the tools so you can become a woman who can take it or leave it and be in control around alcohol in any situation. Epic You is the place for women who want to be healthy, confident, and empowered to accomplish their goals and live their best life. Come join us over at epicu.com/epicu. That's epicu.com/EPICYOU. I can't wait to see you there.